She never expected one evening to change the story of her entire life. Amelia sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the faded sweater in her hands, the one she always wore on days when she didn't want to be seen. Her friend had arranged a blind date for her, insisting she needed to get back out there, but Amelia had no desire to impress anyone. She was tired of expectations, tired of judgments, tired of feeling like she wasn't enough. After the heartbreak she had endured just months ago, she didn't believe in romance, let alone the possibility of finding someone who would truly see her. So she made a quiet decision: she would dress as simply, as plain, and as unattractive as possible, just to make sure the evening stayed uncomplicated. What she didn't know was that this small, defiant act would lead her straight into the heart of a man whose life, wealth, and world were far beyond anything she had imagined. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of real-hearted stories, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Thread. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to the world. Amelia wore her old gray sweater, pulled her hair into a loose messy bun, slipped into washed-out jeans, and walked out the door, hoping the date would end quickly. She didn't know that across town, Adrian Hayes, one of the youngest billionaires in the country, was sitting at a cafe table staring nervously at the door. Despite all his money, despite the admiration he received everywhere he went, despite the world seeing him as a man who had everything, he had never felt so unsure. He wasn't used to blind dates. He wasn't used to vulnerability. And he certainly wasn't used to looking forward to something so simple, so human, so delicate. The moment Amelia walked into the cafe, she kept her eyes down, trying to blend into the crowd. But Adrian saw her instantly. There was something about the quiet simplicity in the way she moved, something soft, something real, something he hadn't seen in a very long time. Amelia scanned the tables, spotted him, and braced herself for disappointment. She expected him to judge her appearance, to force a polite smile, to mentally check out. But to her surprise, he didn't. The intensity in his gaze was warm, curious, drawn in as if she was someone worth seeing, not the dressed-down version she wanted to hide behind. They sat across from each other, the warm glow of the cafe lights creating a gentle softness around them. Amelia kept her guard up, speaking cautiously, choosing simple words, expecting the awkward silence that usually comes when two strangers realize they have no reason to meet again. But Adrian listened to her as if her every word mattered. As if her presence itself was something he had unknowingly been waiting for. She talked about her struggles, her doubts, her insecurities, thinking she was oversharing. Yet he found himself admiring the depth behind everything she said, the way she carried pain without bitterness, the way she still found small joys despite everything she had lost. Amelia didn't know that Adrian wasn't interested in her clothes, her makeup, or her appearance. He was captivated by the gentleness in her eyes, the sincerity in her presence, and the quiet strength she didn't even realize she possessed. To him, she wasn't plain. She was the most genuine soul he had encountered in years. He had met countless people, business partners, investors, admirers, but none of them looked at him the way Amelia did. None of them asked him about his experiences without expecting something in return. None of them made him feel human. She didn't know who he was, and that was exactly why he felt safe. As the evening passed, Amelia found herself softening, laughing lightly at one of his stories, feeling warm for the first time in months. She noticed the way he paid attention, the way he leaned forward when she spoke, the way he didn't interrupt or judge. But she kept reminding herself not to get pulled in. She was here only because a friend insisted. He was probably being polite. She felt almost guilty for showing up the way she did, but something inside her whispered that maybe he didn't mind. What Amelia didn't know was that Adrian had already fallen for her, not in a dramatic, movie-like way, but in a quiet, sincere way that he couldn't ignore. He didn't care that she wasn't dressed to impress. In fact, that was the very thing that touched him. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't performing. She wasn't trying to be someone else. And in a world where everything felt polished, filtered, and superficial, her authenticity was a breath of fresh air he didn't know he needed. Still, Amelia struggled. She kept telling herself she wasn't beautiful enough, not charming enough, not interesting enough for someone like him. She had no idea who he truly was, but she sensed from his confidence that he probably lived a very different life. It scared her. It made her guard return whenever she felt herself opening up too much. She wondered why someone like him would even want to talk to someone like her. Little did she know that while she doubted herself, Adrian was silently hoping she would give him a chance. He wanted to ask for another date but feared overwhelming her. He wanted to tell her she was beautiful, not because of makeup or clothes, but because of the light she carried within her. But he knew she wasn't ready to hear that yet. As they walked out of the cafe, a cool breeze brushed past them. Amelia wrapped her arms around herself, and Adrian instinctively offered his jacket, but she gently shook her head. She didn't want to accept too much. She didn't want to give him the impression she needed saving. But in truth, she was afraid of letting someone in after being hurt so deeply before. Adrian sensed that hesitation but didn't push. He walked with her quietly, simply grateful for the moments they had shared. At the corner of the street, they paused. The soft city lights reflected in Amelia's eyes, and Adrian felt a rush of emotion he didn't expect. He wanted to tell her who he was. He wanted to tell her how much she had moved him that evening. But he knew it wasn't the right moment. Amelia, unsure of what to say, simply thanked him and prepared to walk away, thinking she might never see him again. But as she took a few steps, Adrian called out softly, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for her heart to hear. And in that quiet call, she felt something shift deep inside her. She turned back, saw the sincerity in his expression, and realized that maybe, just maybe, someone had finally seen her for who she really was. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your engagement helps us continue creating emotional, meaningful stories that remind the world of compassion and connection. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe true love sees beyond appearances?